Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, a vessel carrying raw sewage explodes in New York City, killing one worker and injuring two others. The city's mayor says there's no suspicion of foul play. More on what we know so far. Russia and Ukraine successfully conclude the largest prisoner swap since the start of the war, but the fighting continues. What the two sides say about the situation. What's next for Harvard as the university and the Trump administration spar over its foreign student program? Two guests join us to explore what this case means for Harvard and its foreign students. Burnout is running rampant in today's fast-paced, always-on world. What are the key warning signs of it, and how can you stop it before it spreads? A mental health counselor and holistic health expert shares insight. And new discoveries among the stars are bewildering researchers, from Neptune's possible new neighbor to a planetary system with the strangest orbit yet.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A sewage vessel exploded on the Hudson River in New York City, killing one worker and injuring two others. The blast happened Saturday morning while the boat was docked near a wastewater treatment plant in Manhattan. The worker who died worked as an environmental protection worker for the city for 33 years. He was not otherwise identified. The cause of the blast is now under investigation. Mayor Eric Adams said there is no suspicion of criminal involvement. The Department of Environmental Protection says the blast does not appear to have left any environmental impacts. As we've reported, House Republicans this week met their self-imposed deadline to pass President Trump's big budget bill before the Memorial Day recess. The Senate, though, is preparing to break it apart. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the latest on the budget bill's journey through Congress.
After several hours of overnight work and last-minute deal-making, House Republicans got their big budget bill over the finish line.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
I truly believe we've unlocked the opportunities for generations to come.
The more than a 1,000-page bill makes Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, eliminates tax on tips, raises the nation's debt limit by $4 trillion, and boosts funding for the Pentagon and to help Trump carry out his immigration plans, among other measures. Two Republicans, Congressman Thomas Massie and Congressman Warren Davidson, opposed it, along with all Democrats.
The GOP tax scam represents an assault on the economy, an assault on health care, an assault on nutritional assistance, an assault on tax fairness, and an assault on fiscal responsibility.
As part of a vow to make deep cuts to the federal budget, Republicans included several changes to Medicaid and the SNAP program, formerly known as food stamps. Able-bodied beneficiaries would need to prove they're working, going to school, or volunteering in order to get benefits. And it penalizes states that allow illegal immigrants to get Medicaid.
We're going to send that to his desk. We're going to get it there by Independence Day on July 4th, and we are going to celebrate a new golden age in America.
However, the road ahead is all but smooth. Several Republican senators are opposed to the House bill in its current form.
And borrowing this money just isn't fiscally conservative. I've told them I can support the package if they separate the debt ceiling off and have a separate vote on that. I want nothing to do with that.
I think that's clear. It's got to change before it can pass the Senate. And I continue to stand by my line in the sand, which is no Medicaid benefit cuts. Listen, if you want to do work requirements, I'm all for that. I bet every Republican and I bet most Americans would agree with that. But we're not talking here about just work requirements. The House goes much further than that.
Senate Leader John Thune previously committed to changing the House's bill.
The CDC has confirmed it has detected positive cases of a COVID-19 variant reportedly tied to rising cases in China and other parts of Asia. The CDC confirmed to Fox News Digital that it's found fewer than 20 cases in the U.S. The patients are mainly arriving international travelers at airports in the New York City area, California, Virginia, and Washington state. A health agency spokesperson said the cases haven't met the threshold for inclusion in its online COVID tracker. A report from the University of Minnesota says the NB181 variant is driving new waves in Asia. The Epoch Times reports that one of China's leading disease experts says the dominant strain there is Omicron XDV. On Friday, the U.S. CDC reported that the numbers of people seeking care for respiratory illnesses is low. That's including for the seasonal flu, COVID, and RSV. Praising them for choosing a life of service, President Trump addressed graduates at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, where the next generation of Army leaders is educated. He highlighted what he calls a golden age of the nation and the changes he's bringing to the military. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more from West Point.
And you will become officers in the greatest and most powerful army the world has ever known.
Addressing over 1,000 graduating cadets at the U.S. Military Academy, the Commander-in-Chief stresses his peace through strength defense policy and doubles down on his push to get rid of DEI in the military.
The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun.
President Trump in his first military commencement address since returning to office and calls for a shift from foreign wars to defending the homeland.
Gone are the days where defending every nation but our own was the primary thought. We are putting America first. A central purpose of our military is to protect our own borders.
And on inside the U.S. military,
there will be no more critical race theory or transgender for everybody forced onto our brave men and women in uniform.
In response to President Trump's order rolling back DEI programs, West Point has disbanded a dozen cadet clubs centered on gender, race, and sexuality. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has also ordered service academies like West Point to base admissions only on merit, not race, sex, or ethnicity.
We're focusing our military on its core mission, crushing America's adversaries, killing America's enemies.
The Commander-in-Chief also leaves the new second lieutenants with his own advice. Take the path you love, take risks, think big, and always hold on to culture and tradition.
Through every challenge and every battle, you'll stand strong, you'll work hard, you'll stay tough, and you will fight, 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 and win, win, win.
After the ceremony, Trump says he'll go back to work on Russia and China. And next Monday, Trump will participate in Memorial Day services at the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. That's to honor veterans and those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Reporting from West Point, New York, Iris Tao, NTD News.
An alleged cartel member wanted by the U.S. government is reported dead after a police operation in Mexico. The State Department previously offered $1 million for information leading to his arrest. U.S. officials say the suspect was a key member of a criminal organization. The group is allegedly involved in fentanyl smuggling. Mexico's Security Secretary now says the suspect died during a police operation. The U.S. had offered a reward of up to $1 million for his capture. The man faced a host of charges, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and weapons possession. Russia and Ukraine successfully conclude the largest prisoner swap since the start of the war, but the fighting continues. Kyiv reports being hit with the largest attack yet, killing at least 4 civilians. Here's the war update.
Russia and Ukraine report exchanging 1,000 prisoners each on Sunday. It's the largest prisoner swap since the start of the conflict over 3 years ago. Ukraine and Russia recently held their first direct talks since the start of the war. That's when they agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners from each side. But one Ukrainian soldier suggests the progress won't stop the fighting.
We'll return anyway, and we'll enlist again. We'll take weapons into our hands and defend Mother Ukraine once again.
His statement comes as Ukraine reports the largest Russian attack since the start of the war. Ukrainian officials say the drones came in overnight, just hours before the prisoner exchange. A resident in eastern Ukraine suggests the swap doesn't affect the reality on the ground.
They hit us day and night without hesitation. So what? We wait and shelter. All windows have been blown out twice already.
Ukraine says Russia launched almost 300 drones and 70 missiles in the attack. Ukraine's military reports shooting down a great majority of the incoming objects. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv wants to continue the peace efforts.
We are ready for all steps that can guarantee true security. It is Russia that is not ready for anything.
Next week must be a time for action aimed at increasing pressure on Russia.
Russian officials recently said that Moscow is working on a memorandum for a peace agreement, saying this proves that the Kremlin is seeking peace as well. Aryan Pastar, NTD News.
Some residents in Israel are concerned that military operations in the Gaza Strip could endanger the lives of hostages. Meanwhile, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem arrived in Israel today. She is reportedly set to attend the memorial ceremony for the 2 embassy staffers recently killed in D.C. NTD's Jason Perry has the details.
Residents rallied in Tel Aviv over the weekend, many of them calling for an end to the war in the Gaza Strip. They also called for the immediate return of all remaining hostages, as continued military operations could endanger the lives of the hostages. A nephew of a deceased hostage said this:
"The war in Gaza must end now by signing a deal for the release and return of all hostages. We can and will deal with all other threats once they are safely returned home."
A former hostage who spoke at a different rally said it was the bombing from Israeli airstrikes that she feared the most while in captivity.
First, you hear the whistling, praying it won't fall on us. Then, the explosions. In one bombing, part of the house I was in collapsed. Fortunately, the wall I was leaning against didn't crumble, and that's what saved my life.
Meanwhile, Israel's chief of the general staff conducted a situational assessment in the Gaza Strip on Sunday, and he said they're operating in order to defend themselves, and he reiterated the atrocities committed by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. And residents in the Gaza Strip were seen rushing to collect food that was delivered by the United Nations on Sunday. Israeli officials have said they want to help deliver aid to the people of the Gaza Strip, but not to Hamas. Also on Sunday, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem arrived in Israel alongside U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee. Noem then visited the Western Wall in Jerusalem. According to the Times of Israel, the Israeli Foreign Ministry said Noem is also set to attend a memorial ceremony for the couple recently killed outside of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. And on the same day, sirens sounded in Jerusalem, and residents took shelter as the Houthi terrorist group in Yemen fired another missile at Israel. Israeli forces reported intercepting the missile, and no injuries were reported. Jason Perry, NTD News.
It's Memorial Day weekend, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is honoring the day with a cleanup event. He joined his children and others to spend the day cleaning the Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington.
Our responsibility to pass that to the next generation. That's what I see days like Memorial Day. It's what they're all about. Veterans Day, it's what it's all about. It's what the 4th of July is all about. We have to very intentionally infuse it into the minds and hearts and souls of young kids so that they understand why it's special and want to pass it as well.
Hegseth described the event as a chance to educate a new generation about the sacrifices made by Americans during war. He added that he hopes to encourage families nationwide to take similar opportunities and reflect on the meaning of Memorial Day. Veterans Affairs Secretary Doug Collins also attended. Memorial Day weekend in Colorado is facing a swath of thunderstorms. A wave of severe weather moved into the state from the west. The Denver metro area and other areas faced powerful thunderstorm warnings yesterday. Today, the state faces less severe storms, but they're more widespread and accompanied by cooler weather with temperatures mostly in the 50s. Memorial Day Monday faces scattered storms with a slight chance of severe thunderstorms and a chance of heavy rain. The temperature is forecast to be around the same as today. The temperatures rise into the 70s on Tuesday, with only isolated storms expected. The weather forecast comes after Colorado endured 4 tornadoes Friday in the state's Eastern Plains region. Hail also reportedly fell during Friday's storms. Coming up, what's next for Harvard as the university and the Trump administration spar over its foreign student program? 2 guests join us to explore what this case means for Harvard and its foreign students. And burnout is running rampant in today's fast-paced, always-on world. What are the key warning signs of it, and how can you stop it before it spreads? A mental health counselor and holistic health expert shares insights into the growing challenge. That and more in just a minute here on NTD News. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Harvard is in the spotlight as President Trump is calling for the names and countries of every international student enrolled there. That's after a federal court Friday blocked the Trump administration's revocation of the university's ability to enroll foreign students. A day earlier, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem issued a statement saying this administration is holding Harvard accountable for fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party on its campus. This is on top of a letter from the House Select Committee accusing Harvard of training a sanctioned Chinese Communist Party paramilitary group, XPCC. Joining us now to discuss our two guests, Gerard Filitti, foreign affairs analyst and attorney specializing in national security law and policy, and Paula Scanlon, senior fellow at American Principles Project. Thank you both so much for being here. Gerard, starting with you, Harvard has pushed back. It's appealing. Now, the New York Times has a piece out titled "Why Harvard Has No Way Out," saying that the Trump administration has the levers of power. Now, in the legal realm, what do you see as the outcome of this? Can Harvard win, or does the Trump administration have the levers of power here?
In the legal realm, I think that Harvard ultimately will be required to provide the information that the Trump administration is asking for. As part of participating in this SCVP program to provide visas to international students, Harvard is obligated by law to provide certain information to the government upon request. Harvard can't simply refuse to do so, citing First Amendment reasons. Its participation in the program is contingent on it providing this information. Now, a judge may have temporarily blocked this with an injunction, but I see that the Supreme Court will ultimately have to weigh in, and I think that the result will be favorable to the federal government, that Harvard has to comply with these disclosure obligations.
Now, Paula, as Gerard mentioned, Harvard is citing this is an issue of free speech. How are you viewing what's going down at Harvard?
Well, first, I'm grateful to the Trump administration for cracking down on Harvard. I think what we've seen in this country, and I speak from my personal experience having attended an Ivy League institution, that these organizations are completely corrupt. They're taking in foreign money, and it's time we crack down and look at who they're taking in, but also looking at what they've allowed to go on these college campuses, right? We've seen the Hamas protests going on rampant at Harvard. We've seen all of the corruption that they've done, and I'm grateful that the Trump administration is cracking down on this. And I hope that the Trump administration does win in the courts. And I hope that Harvard has to turn over information and has to rethink who they're admitting into these universities and what they are teaching on their college campus.
And Paula, expanding on that, how significant is it that the federal government wants to be much more involved in student life on campuses as it relates to, say, supporting terrorism and DEI?
I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, what we've seen in the last year is the people that come out of academia and the professors that work at these institutions are overwhelmingly left-leaning. It's time we bring back balance. We bring back ideas where students can simply learn things like common sense and learn about their classes instead of being forced a DEI liberal agenda in every single class that they take. And I think it's a great win. And I'm grateful to the administration for taking a step here and being part of this process. But also, I really would love education in this country to come back to normalcy and come back to, again, teaching students the basics like math and science without a hidden agenda.
Now, Gerard, zooming out a bit here, China responded with the foreign ministry spokesperson slamming this move. Now, Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping's daughter went to Harvard in the past. Now, that is on top of the former Harvard professor Charles Lieber getting convicted for covering up his ties to China, Harvard's own history of training Chinese Communist Party members through its Kennedy School. Do you think that history with China is why Harvard is being singled out here compared to other universities that also had rampant anti-Semitism on campus?
No. I think Harvard is being singled out, but is not the only one that will see this type of enforcement action. I anticipate the Trump administration to be taking similar measures with other universities as well. Harvard is by far the best known American institution of higher learning that accepts international students on a massive scale. Something like 27% of Harvard students are foreign students. And a lot of those are funded by the Chinese Communist government, which we have seen infiltrate Harvard on a massive scale. And by infiltrate, we also need to recognize that they're looking at getting research, getting information, getting sensitive materials, getting that back to the Chinese Communist Party, information and research that can be used against America, against their national interest. I think Harvard is one of the most lax universities when it comes to actually looking at what its international students are, who they represent, and what they're doing in the United States. And that is one of the key reasons why they are the primary focus of the administration's efforts right now to crack down on abuses in the visa program that allows universities to bring students in.
And on that note, Paula, in your view, is there a conflict of interest when a university wants to give all students a good experience, but some foreign students do have backgrounds that clash with American values?
Absolutely. We should be looking at who we're entering this country. It is a privilege to be educated in America. I come from a family that immigrated here, and going to college in America was a dream of theirs. And for allowing anyone to come on and have access to Americans and have access to American students to potentially plant ideas in their head that are anti-American and go into these college campuses and really spy on this country is what it comes down to. We run that risk when we allow this to continue to happen. And again, I'm grateful for the administration to crack down on this. And we do have to be careful who we bring into this country because there are so many foreign countries that are so anti-American and want this country to fail.
And Gerard, as you touched on earlier, international students make up over a quarter of Harvard's student body. Now, even with the federal judge's order blocking this revocation, effectively allowing international students to stay on for now, what happens next semester? What's going to happen to the international students?
Well, that's a good question, and a lot of students have a lot of soul searching to do whether they actually want to accept offers from Harvard given the uncertainties. And this also affects students who may very well thrive here, including up to 60 students who are Taiwan, who I think would be a tremendous addition to the U.S. Academy. Ultimately, what we're seeing is the need for the courts to weigh in and decide with finality what the Trump administration can do with respect to international students, and also, I might add, to deportations of foreign students. I think the sooner we have a final answer from the U.S. Supreme Court, the sooner we have clarity, the sooner we'll be able to understand what foreign students can look for in the United States and which countries can send their students here without having these difficulties.
A lot to watch out for sure. Gerard Filitti, Paula Scanlon, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, horses on a Kentucky farm are doubling as therapists. Find out how one farm is giving a second chance to recovering addicts who are working to rebuild their lives. And burnout is running rampant in today's fast-paced, always-on world. What are the key warning signs of it, and how can you stop it before it spreads? A mental health counselor and holistic health expert shares insight. Details right after this quick break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A fleet of Air Force Thunderbirds rocketing through the skies above Long Island, New York this morning. The display was part of the four-leaf air show. NTD's Sean Marshall was on the scene.
It's an amazing showcase of dedication and skill at the annual Memorial Day Air Show here at Jones Beach in New York. It's an event so popular that most of the crowd has to be up at the crack of dawn to beat the traffic each year. The United States Air Force Thunderbirds, the Army's Golden Knights parachute team, the Navy and the Coast Guard are making a display of skill that define the elite levels of the U.S. military.
Ever since I was little, I kind of had like an itch almost that I wanted to like serve our country. And then as I got older, I realized this is something that I'm actually interested in. It wasn't just a thought, like I think I want to make this reality.
But that's not all. The Marines, the Navy, and Coast Guard are all here. And high-flying heroes is an understatement. The skills being showcased are above and beyond what you would think a human could be capable of achieving.
And we've come here in the past, and it's a great show for families and veterans.
I'm here at the Sea Cadets. We're on recruiting duty, and just enjoy the air show.
It gets better and better. More people.
There's fun for the whole family. You occasionally see future recruits challenging veterans to push-up contests, and spectators covering the beach for miles.
I've not personally had any family members. It'd be great to have one of my daughters, support our country. I obviously fear of her getting hurt, but otherwise it'd be great to have her represent us as a family.
It's beautiful here. I love seeing everybody come together and enjoy. I think this is great that they can do that. It brings everybody together. I feel like a lot of people in general, they don't realize how, America can come together for things like this, and it all shows, and it's beautiful that this can happen. It's great to see everybody out here.
It sends chills down your spine when the jets roar past. It's easy to see why the show attracts so many people that traffic had to be blocked off for those who don't arrive early enough. Once again, the military professionals did not disappoint. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
As Memorial Day approaches this Monday, people across the U.S. are paying tribute to the service members who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Let's take a look at how one city in California is honoring American heroes. NTD's David Lamb reports.
To purposefully put on the calendar to take time out of the day to set aside a time to remember is very, very important.
Reverend Kevin Hemp served 6 years in the Marine Corps before becoming a pastor. He was one of many to honor service members in this Memorial Day tribute in Daly City, right by San Francisco.
And the wars that have been fought, to keep us free, and those that died in service to that. And so Memorial Day is that day where we can slow down, set time aside, and remember their sacrifice and what they've done for us.
Joseph Garcia served in the Army in the 60s, deployed to Vietnam.
What does Memorial Day mean to you?
Memorial Day is to honor not only those that die for us, for our freedom, but also for those that still, like me, trying to remember what we went through all this year for our liberty and freedom.
Well, as you can see from the ceremony, it means everything to me to be able to keep them alive by honoring them. The sacrifice that they have, the ultimate sacrifice that they made for our country is important to remember them. And it's important for the employees of Daly City to have the opportunity to remember them.
That lives are always changed. They're never the same. So we have to realize that these things, when you sit with them and listen to their stories, you let them tell their stories. So it does affect you, and it affects your family, because the family serves as well.
For Daly City, they're honoring not only the military, but first responders as well.
We are recognizing our fire, our police, our water department, our street division. At the end of the day, they serve so that we have a wonderful place to live, just like those who've served in the military, all those who serve to make it a better place for all of us to live.
Memorial Day is observed every year on the last Monday in May. In Daly City, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Ever feel like there's too much to do and never enough time? New research shows 66% of American workers are experiencing some level of burnout. In this preview of Vital Signs with Brendan Fallon, mental health counselor and holistic health expert Dr. Margaret Trey shares how to recognize the warning signs and what you can do to recover.
Burnout, particularly due to work stress, is a pervasive social phenomenon. If you hadn't had some brush with it yourself, then it's almost certain that you know someone who has. My guest today has had years of observing this phenomenon through her work and in aiding individuals facing burnout. Dr. Margaret Trey holds a PhD in counseling, has undertaken research into holistic healing of mind and body, and has authored several books on the topic. Together we'll explore whether we're now more prone to burnout than before and why. We'll identify the warning signs of burnout, and we'll start to look at ways to deal with this situation. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthy from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendan Fallon. Margaret, so great to have you join us on Vital Signs today. To start with, I'm interested, I know this can be very heavy work, the kind of work that you're doing as a counselor, dealing with people facing different life pressures, facing things like burnout due to work and school pressure, all kinds of things. What's the first thing that would tell you that you're having trouble yourself and that maybe you need to take a step back and be a bit more gentler to yourself?
I think one of the first things that I would notice for myself is I'm feeling a bit exhausted and tired, and I'm skipping some meals, and there are many things for me to do, and I'm not sure which one to start. And then I realized, hey, this is not good. I didn't have lunch, and now it's dinner time, and I'm a bit tired, and mentally I am feeling rather exhausted. And this would go on for several days, and then I realized, hang on, this is not right, because it's also affecting me from doing well in what I am supposed to be doing during the day. And it takes a longer time for me to recover. Like I have clients telling me they sleep for a long time, but the next day when they wake up, they are still feeling tired and lacking energy. Generally speaking, when you have burnout, the first thing we notice about ourselves is that we lack energy. Kind of life feels listless. And then we realize the outcome, our productivity is also reduced. And in some cases then, emotionally we will be affected and we kind of felt negative and sometimes even cynical.
When you say that about productivity, I think there's this concept of workaholism that I can relate to very closely, in that work kind of becomes something that brings sometimes an unhealthy reward. And I see it sometimes the way that I've worked in the past. I try to do this less nowadays, but there seems to be a clear connection or a relationship between the way that I've worked in the past and the way that some people will use drugs or use alcohol. I guess in a healthy situation, you are getting a reward from working well and getting your work done. And I guess this ties into physiological effects like a dopamine release or whatever when you're completing your work. But I've experienced how that can have a negative side to it, where perhaps you're not looking after yourself very well and you're putting too much pressure on yourself and you're chasing that dopamine hit from the work to try and make yourself feel better, and it starts to cycle.
Yes, it's definitely a cycle. And when you are in the middle of it, it is very hard to slow down, Even though my mind would tell me, okay, slow down. And I have to train my mind to actually slow down. And because of my own past training, I do have some strategies to do. Okay, I'm eating. I'm sitting, walking. And so I try to bring myself to the moment and tell myself, okay, what do I need to do now? And I slow down. I try my best to slow down. And this is the same thing that I would share with my clients. Usually they don't see it happening. And when they do, then we will look at strategies. And the first thing is, when they come to see me, they always ask me, tell me what to do. And then I would usually put it back in their hands and ask them, well, you have many years of experience. You have come a long way in life. Tell me what has worked for you.
I can see that being very important to kind of reinforce the person's own toolkit, their own strategies that they've worked out themselves through life to deal with that situation. To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Chocolate, weight loss, and self-love, three things that might not seem connected, but for author and nutrition expert Carolyn Eickhoff, they're all part of a powerful journey. Eickhoff, who once lost hundreds of pounds only to regain it, is now inspiring others with her book, The Secret of Food, and also with her unique approach to health. NTD's Dana Monahan has the story.
In this small chocolate factory, Carolyn Eickhoff is creating more than just a sweet treat. She's shaping a philosophy. The author of The Secret of Food and a health coach, Eickhoff believes food is much more than just fuel. Eickhoff's journey to health was anything but linear. She lost nearly 300 pounds through extreme dieting and exercise, first losing 200 pounds only to gain it all back. It was a wake-up call.
And that led me on the path of looking at food in a very different way. And that's why I also got inspired to write the book.
For years, food felt like the enemy, but through mindfulness, self-compassion, and a shift in perspective, Eickhoff found freedom.
And when I changed the whole way how I viewed food as not like as a punishment or to deprive myself in a way or to restrict myself, I transformed the way I was behaving and the way I experienced food in a very joyful way, and I changed it from pain to freedom, actually.
She emphasizes the spiritual side of eating, urging people to become more present with their meals and their bodies.
We're always on the rush, on the go, and then so many times we're eating in front of the television or the phone, and we don't even know what we are eating right now. And then switching this behavior to become more present. Oh wow, so what is it that I'm actually like eating right now? Is that nourishing me? What kinds of thoughts do I have right now?
Ekoff also created a guilt-free chocolate treat called Love Balls, made with dates, raw cacao, and raspberry powder. A snack, she says, that proves indulgence and health can coexist.
We have so many people, eating these love balls and like losing the weight because it's also like a sign again. You don't have to deprive yourself.
Ultimately, her message is about kindness to ourselves and our bodies.
Taking every day like step by step. And then we fall off the wagon again, but that's okay. And then we do it the next day again. And then maybe we have a good few days and then we fall back, but it's not like, okay, now everything doesn't make sense anymore.
Through her book, Her Chocolate and Her Story, Ekoff is proving that health is about more than just numbers on a scale. It's about joy, balance, and self-care. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A new travel alert just came out for a major European destination. The U.S. Department of State has issued a level 1 travel advisory for Switzerland, which basically means exercise normal precautions. Level 1 is the lowest advisory level on a 4-level scale. It essentially reminds travelers to stay aware, but there is no need to change travel plans. In fact, Switzerland was recently ranked the 5th safest country in the world by Berkshire Hathaway Travel Protection. That said, the State Department still recommends using common sense and staying alert. Common crimes include things like pickpocketing, petty theft, and shoplifting, usually in crowded places like train stations and attractions. Travelers are advised to stay vigilant and keep a close eye on their belongings, especially in bigger cities. This advisory comes as several government agencies are rolling out travel alerts ahead of the busy summer season. Coming up, new discoveries among the stars are bewildering researchers, from Neptune's possible new neighbor to a planetary system with the strangest orbit yet. And horses on a Kentucky farm are doubling as therapists. Find out how one farm is giving a second chance to recovering addicts who are working to rebuild their lives. That and more right after this break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Neptune just got a new neighbor, and a rare double star system with a bizarre orbit is making scientists scratch their heads. Here's the latest on new discoveries in the reaches of outer space.
Move over, Pluto. A new dwarf planet may be on the block, or rather at the edge of our solar system. A team of researchers from the Institute for Advanced Studies School of Natural Sciences announced the discovery. The vast space beyond Neptune, but within our galaxy, was thought to be empty. But the new find is now considered one of the most distant, but still visible, objects in our sky. The celestial body is roughly 1/3 the size of Pluto and may be large enough to be considered a dwarf planet. Much farther out in space, an unusual planetary system is making waves with its odd orbit. NASA science describes it as a possible perpendicular planet and one of the strangest ever found. Typically, celestial bodies orbit in a flat plane around a star's equator. But not this one. The candidate planet, as it's called, orbits around 2 brown dwarfs. The 2 small bodies, a cross between planets and very small stars, orbit each other. It's already very unusual for a planet to orbit 2 stars instead of 1. But the dwarf's companion planet takes that a step further, orbiting around them at a 90-degree angle, something unheard of until now.
The remains of an ancient sea monster that lived alongside dinosaurs dug out of the mud in Mississippi. A team of geologists there were stunned when they pulled out a giant fossilized bone. The bone was part of the spinal column of a mosasaur, a reptile that lived alongside famous creatures like the T-Rex and Triceratops. The well-preserved relic measures a full 7 inches wide. That means the animal it came from was one of the largest ever to swim in the area. At the time, Mississippi was submerged under a warm, shallow sea around 66 million years ago. The animal would have been at least 30 feet long or even 50 feet long and weighed 2,000 pounds. The The bone was found near a small town, Mississippi State University, alongside other treasures like ancient seashells. The discovery has since been turned over to the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science. How far would you go for the perfect pastry? Bakery tourism is a trend on the rise in the UK and is turning local bakeries into travel destinations. Let's take a look.
Maddie just arrived at this bakery on the border between Scotland and England for the pick of the crop, chocolate and fruit-stuffed croissants. For this professional cyclist based in London, having her favorite sweet treat also gives her motivation in her profession.
I find the satisfaction of getting a really good baked good, almost like amazing motivation for riding. Once I actually rode from northern Spain to France for a croissant because I really wanted like a traditional French croissant. It was a 2-day ride. Oh my God, it was so flaky.
The appreciation is also satisfying for the bakery's owner.
I think this kind of shows some sort of recognition for craftsmanship.
A bakery tourist is someone who travels often long distances to visit and enjoy the baked goods from a specific bakery. This trend, known as bakery tourism, has gained significant popularity in the UK and globally.
Traveling for bakeries is a new thing for me. I used to be a chef, so certainly when I travel, the first thing I look up is food.
Another bakery is famous well beyond its South London premises. Among the fans is Millie Kenny Ryder, an author who has made it her mission to sample the best of bakeries across the country.
Britain, I feel, has so many interesting bakeries in little towns and outside cities and all over the country that I wanted to showcase and champion. So many great bakeries that are worthy of a trip.
As bakery tourism becomes more visible, it highlights how food can influence travel choices in new ways.
Music legend Billy Joel has canceled all of his upcoming concerts across the U.S. That's after being diagnosed with a rare brain disorder that's affecting his hearing, vision, and balance. The singer, songwriter, and iconic piano man has been a major figure in pop music for over 50 years. According to the Cleveland Clinic, the condition can impact brain functions like memory, concentration, movement, and overall cognitive ability. Joel's team released a statement saying the disorder worsened in recent months, with symptoms surfacing after recent performances. He's now undergoing physical therapy, and his doctor advised him to pause all live shows during his recovery. Back in March, Joel had surgery and began physical therapy. At the time, doctors were hopeful for a full recovery. Joel, now 76, wrapped up his decade-long residency at Madison Square Garden in July 2024 with his 150th show at the iconic venue. He had planned to keep touring after that, with summer stops lined up at Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, and MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. A teen trio of prom goers helped rescue a family from a fire, and a motorcycle-riding dog has a run-in with police. Details on some of the week's more heroic and heartwarming stories.
Watch a group of high school prom goers in New York heroically alert a family to a raging garage fire.
Your house is on fire! Your house is on fire!
Aiden Kane and his friends were headed to an after-prom party when they say they spotted an orange glow they thought was a bonfire. But the teens quickly realized it was a garage fully engulfed in flames and ran to the house to alert a man and 2 girls still inside.
You guys gotta get out.
The group was able to get the family to safety before fire officials arrived to tackle the blaze. The family, who was not injured, says they are grateful for the teens' help, and WKTV reports the Maynard Fire Department took it a step further, calling the group Heroes. Speaking of heroes, check out the daring actions of police in New Jersey who rushed to pull a driver from a vehicle stopped in the path of a speeding train. Police say the driver was impaired and unable to get out of the car on his own, so as the oncoming train's horn blared, officers pulled him from the vehicle mere moments before it was plowed into by the speeding locomotive. Yikes. Finally, another police vehicle interaction caught on camera in Australia was less harrowing and more just doggone dumbfounding. The Sunshine Coast Highway Patrol spotted a motorbike rider with a fairly large dog strapped upright to their chest. The officer cited the driver, saying even though the dog seemed content on the bike, and it certainly did, the crazy getup could place the rider, the pooch, or other motorists at risk. The department later shared the Rough Rider vid, saying, "We know how attached people are to their pets, but it's best to apply a pause-off approach on our roads."
Well, Kentucky might be famous for its race horses. One farm is giving people in recovery a second chance. Million-dollar horses double as therapists for those wanting to leave their addictions behind and start a new life.
You know, I think the horse is the most therapeutic animal in the world, in my opinion. There's other animals like dogs that are very good, but there's something about a horse. You'll see people coming here that are depressed, anxious, suicidal, and you put them with a horse for a day or two, and it's just amazing the effect that horse has on them.
I started out, you know, in my younger years drinking, then it went on to like the pill mill days, and then it progressed to heroin, fentanyl, and meth. When I came here, I had no expectations of really even what the horses were going to do for me. I just wanted something different. And the day I got in this barn and started working with the horses, I felt like they were healing my soul.
Stable recovery kicked off 6 years ago. It started when Frank Taylor was looking for ways to help his family's sprawling farm outside Lexington stay afloat. It's a second chance employment opportunity. Those in recovery help out on the farm, caring for the horses in a peaceful environment. The goal is to keep the men in the program on the farm for a year. The longer time allows them to form bonds within the group, giving them the time and space to regain confidence and rebuild their lives. But the biggest draw is the horses themselves, as the men learn to care for living creatures. So far, over 100 have overcome their addictions through the program. Taylor gives all the credit to the four-legged animals, saying every morning 700 therapists are ready to go to work. And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.